Hello and welcome to the Slim Jim channel. I'd like to talk about some training principles today and some ideas I have, some of which specifically for younger folks starting to train, as well as more experienced lifters too, you could benefit. So the first thing is the principle of constant tension. Always keep the muscle group you're working tense, which leads to the second principle, time under tension. Next, we'd be varying your rep ranges. So sometimes you're doing low weight, high reps. Sometimes you're doing high weight, low reps. Sometimes you're doing regular workouts just in the middle of those two. And then there's set intensifiers such as supersets, compound sets, drop sets, things like that. All those increase the intensity of your set. High weight, okay, I already talked about that. You should always be using a weight at the peak of the contraction. You could squeeze to the point of like pain or something like cramping the muscle that you're working. Reason being, let's say for instance, if you're doing a dumbbell bicep curl, if you can't bring that dumbbell up and squeeze so hard at the top that you create pain in that muscle, the weight's too heavy. Because if all you can do is raise that weight up and it brings you right back down, you're not in control. It's too heavy. You're not strong enough for that weight. So you need to back off, come up to the top, squeeze the living Jesus out of that thing, and then let it stretch out. So that's another thing. Your back and leg workouts, in my opinion, and some people are going to question this, should be no less than about 28 working sets. And people are going to go, oh my God, that's a lot. But when you break it down, like say a leg workout, you have two different types of calf raises at least, maybe even three or possibly more. You have leg curl, leg extension. You have squat and leg press, say. You have inner outer thigh. You maybe do some lunges, maybe additional hamstring work. So as you can see, if you're doing minimum of 3, maybe 4, and if you're gung-ho about it, maybe 5 sets of every exercise, the numbers are going to add up. It's going to get there. Same thing with back. There's a lot of real estate to cover on your back. You got a lot of muscle groups there you're training. I mean, what are you going to dance around 1 or 2 sets and then jump to the next, and you're never going to get anything accomplished? You got to exhaust the muscle and be progressive with the resistance. So usually from there, things should be divided equally, like I said, to 4 to 5 sets of everything. On back, I don't want you to forget about doing pull-ups. Bodyweight pull-ups is one of the best builders of your back that you can do, and they're hard. It's the same thing with dips, and eventually you'll get to where you're doing weighted dips and you'll be doing weighted pull-ups. But trust me, in the beginning, it's going to be difficult just body weight getting some pretty significant numbers. Arnold Schwarzenegger used to say, once you do your body weight on the pull-down machine, you should move over to pull-ups. You should be doing 50 pull-ups 3 times a week, and it doesn't matter if it takes you 1 rep every set, 50 sets to get 50, or 2 or 3 sets and you're done, or 1 if you're really cool. But so that's the pull-ups. And then you want to do something similar, four sets or so of some pull downs, some wide grip, narrow grip, reverse grip, some seated rows, barbell rows, deadlifts. These are all, and shrugs as well. You don't want to forget about any of these major items. And you can go get a machine, yeah, but you can't forget the basics, the stuff that's always worked, that built the whole bodybuilding and fitness industry. Tried and true. Okay. Sometimes machines are great, but there's no doubt that the old stuff is the best. So moving on from there, and that, like I said, that's the minimum. More can be done from there. Some people might say you're overtraining, but there's an old saying also, you can't overtrain, you can only undereat. And in some ways I would agree with that, except for the fact that if you're trying to be lean and shredded or something like that, yeah, you can overeat. So, um, so on legs, I say, 6 set per calves because there's 2 exercises, 3 sets each. Same thing for extensions and the leg curls, 6 sets there. And I do those in that order: calves, then extensions and curls, and then I move into squats and presses, so that you're progressively warming things up, from the ankle to the knee to the waist. Then I move into something like some squats and hack squats. I do both of those sometimes, and then 3 sets obviously of each, maybe more. Like I said, if you're feeling good about it, then keep going. Don't change something if it's going good. Keep doing it. If something feels weird or don't work right, then don't do that. Switch. You got to find what works, man. You got to keep trying. So then I do some plie, real wide with the feet, pointing out to do the inner thighs, inner thigh machine, outer thigh machine. And that's kind of like the minimum to cover all that real estate. And you're talking at least 3 sets each by the time you get going. And some guys are going to say more, 4 or 5 sets. So you gotta have some energy on leg and then back day, that's for sure. Other things that go a little quicker, even on a heavy chest day, it still goes quicker than these 2 days. The other thing is, I recommend to people to try and train their calves, at least 3 times a week. They're a stubborn muscle group. You need to hit them more often. Some guys would say every day, but I believe in giving it some rest. So every other day, take the weekend off. Works pretty good. Squeeze and hold each rep for 2 seconds at the contraction. I recommend 25 reps on the calves. Like I say, they're a more stubborn muscle group. You shouldn't need more than 1 to 2 minute rest between sets. The point is to be exhausted but still push through the workout. Squeeze and hold the rep on every body part each time you do a rep. I repeat this because it's so important. On any muscle group, squeeze at the contraction. Hurt that muscle. You want to have the intention of exhausting it. You should train your abs probably just about 3 times a week, I recommend. And nothing like a full-blown workout, just a few minutes in the beginning. I go in order of this. Like I do lower abs first with some leg raises. I'll do some twists, twisting crunches, something like that for the obliques, the external obliques. And then you go to your crunches, your main portion of your abs. Reason being is I like to exhaust the smaller muscle groups first. That's really all you need to do. You don't have to get too elaborate on abs. You can do a lot more. There's a million exercises out there, but you know what? Just find a few that work good for you to cover those 3 areas and go with it. I do not recommend doing side raises and stuff with weight plates. If I said external obliques earlier, I'm sorry, I correct myself. It's external obliques is what that works. Makes you have a wider waistline, a muscular waistline, but it makes it look wider. So only work the internal obliques, Maybe in the very beginning I work the externals with a client just to get them some stability, but then we stop, we move on. As I say, always practice a full range of motion on every contraction as well as a full stretch, other than certain exercises where full range of motion changes the target muscle group. And when I say that, I mean, for instance, like a stiff leg deadlift where you're thinking you're going to work your hamstrings. So you want to work your hamstrings. So you keep the knees close to straight or straight. You're bending over, pushing the hips back, and gliding the bar down in front of your thighs and your shins. When you get all the way down low and you come up with it, yeah, that's the hamstrings, up until you get to a point about the kneecap. And then after that, as you continue upward, it's your glutes. And then as you continue up farther, it's your lower back. So you're hitting 3 muscle groups with that movement. But if you're trying to target one, you need to be specific to that range of motion. That's why guys will do rack pulls for their lower back or glutes, but they'll do floor deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts for hamstrings. And if you notice, they don't always come up all the way with it. They'll come up to about the kneecap, they go back down. They work that range of motion until they get a little exhausted, and maybe they do come up all the way to catch a breath, to take a second's rest, and then they dive back down into that low range of motion. So that's when it makes a difference. Bench press is another one too. You know, obviously when you're fully extended up, your triceps and your shoulders are helping. When you're down low, pumping the bottom and the mid-range, you're working the chest more. So to keep the tension on, to keep time under tension of the target muscle group, you got to stay within that range of motion that's specific to that muscle group. So that's what I wanted to say today. Once again, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram. We're on the Slim Jim and on Facebook. We're on @SlimJim22 on Instagram. We're on MindBody. Our website is slimjimfitness.com. Excuse me. And that's it for today. I'm going to try to get more frequent videos out now. I got to start coming up with more ideas what to talk about. There's a lot of topics. Some of them run a little long, but certainly want to put out some shorter videos too, so keep people attention. Take care, everybody. Be healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.